It all began with a feeling, a cold whisper at the back of my neck that something wasn't right. I'd always prided myself on being the kind of husband who trusted his wife, who believed in the strength of our vows, but over the past few months things had started to shift in ways I couldn't ignore. Lydia, my wife of 10 years, had grown distant. She was always glued to her phone, laughing at texts she wouldn't share, working late more often than usual, and suddenly paying attention to her appearance in ways she hadn't before. She said it was for her confidence, but it didn't feel like it was for her. I wanted to believe her. I really did. I convinced myself that I was imagining things, that I was being paranoid. But then there was the night I found the receipt. It was for an expensive dinner at a restaurant neither of us had ever been to, a romantic place downtown with candlelit tables and a reputation for being the spot where lovers proposed. The receipt had been crumpled up in her purse, buried beneath an old lip balm and a half-eaten granola bar. When I asked her about it, she stammered something about a work meeting, her eyes darting to the floor like a guilty child caught in a lie. Work meeting, right? I didn't press her that night. I could have exploded, demanded answers, but something inside me told me to wait, to gather my proof. If I confronted her too soon, she'd deny everything and I'd be left feeling like a fool. So I did what any rational man would do. In my shoes, I became a detective. I started small, keeping an eye on her phone when she wasn't looking. She'd grown protective of it, always angling the screen away from me, but I was patient. It wasn't long before I noticed the same number popping up again and again, texts at all hours, sometimes just a simple "can't wait to see you" or "missed you today." My stomach churned every time I saw them. The name attached to the number was Kara, but I knew better. Kara didn't send texts like that. One night, while Lydia was in the shower, I unlocked her phone using the passcode I'd memorized weeks ago. My hands shook as I opened her messages. There it was, in black and white, a conversation with someone named Mark. Mark with the smooth compliments, the "I love the way you laugh" messages, the "when can I see you again" and Lydia's responses made me sick. She told him she missed him, that he made her feel alive, that she couldn't wait for the next lunch meeting. I thought about confronting her then and there, storming into the bathroom and demanding an explanation, but I didn't. Something in me wanted more than just a confrontation. I wanted her to feel the pain I felt, the betrayal. I wanted her world to crumble the way she'd crumbled mine. So I waited and planned. The opportunity came sooner than I expected. Lydia had been working on a big project at her marketing firm, something she'd been bragging about for weeks. It involved a new client, some startup that was eager to make a splash in the industry. She was scheduled to give a major presentation at their office downtown, and she'd been nervous and excited about it for days. The morning of her presentation, I kissed her goodbye and wished her luck. She smiled at me, her lips brushing my cheek, and I wondered if she'd kissed Mark the same way. As soon as she was out the door, I sprang into action. The delivery wasn't hard to arrange, a quick trip to the florist and a stop at a coffee shop, and I had everything I needed. By noon, I was parked outside the client's office building, watching through the window as Lydia stood at the front of the room, projecting confidence in her sleek black dress, the perfect professional, the devoted wife. My jaw clenched as I thought about the lies she told me to get here. When the delivery driver arrived, I handed him the package and the address. "Make sure it goes directly to Lydia Thompson," I said. "She's expecting it." She wasn't, not even close. I watched from my car as the driver entered the building, the box in hand. 10 minutes later, chaos erupted through the glass. I saw Lydia freeze mid-sentence as the box was handed to her. She opened it with a polite smile, probably expecting flowers or some other congratulatory gesture. What she found instead were printed screenshots of her text messages with Mark, along with a handwritten note. "You're not as clever as you think you are." The room went silent. Her face turned ashen, her hands trembling as she flipped through the pages. The client's team, all men in suits, looked at each other in confusion and then at Lydia. I couldn't hear the words being exchanged, but I could see the panic in her eyes as she tried to explain, tried to salvage the presentation. It didn't work. And then there was Mark. I'd done my homework on him too. He was her coworker, a smooth talking account manager with a wife and 2 kids of his own. I'd found his address, his social media profiles, even the school his kids attended. I debated whether to involve his family, but in the end I decided on a more direct approach. After Lydia's disastrous presentation, I followed her to the coffee shop where she and Mark often met. She didn't see me, sitting at a table near the back, watching as Mark arrived and slid into the seat across from her. They spoke in hushed tones, Lydia's hands fluttering nervously as she tried to explain what had happened. Mark's face darkened as he realized the implications. That was when I made my move. Mark, isn't it? I said, standing over their table. His head snapped up, his expression shifting from confusion to recognition to fear in the span of a heartbeat. Lydia's face went pale, her mouth opening and closing like a fish out of water. Who the hell are you? Mark demanded, though his voice lacked the confidence of someone who truly wanted an answer. I dropped a stack of photos onto the table, pictures of him and Lydia entering hotels, leaving bars, laughing together in his car. I'm the husband, I said, the one you've been lying to, the one you've been screwing over while you played house with my wife. The color drained from Mark's face. Lydia reached for my arm, tears streaming down her cheeks. David, please, let's talk about this at home. Oh, we'll talk about it, I said, shaking her off, but first I think Mark here needs to explain himself. You see, I've already sent copies of these photos to his wife and to HR at your company. I figured they'd appreciate knowing what kind of people they're employing. You can't do that, Mark stammered. You'll ruin me. You ruined yourself. I shot back. You both did. You think there wouldn't be consequences? That you could just waltz through life, wrecking other people's homes, and no one would notice? Lydia broke down completely, sobbing into her hands as Mark sat there, frozen. I turned to leave, but not before delivering the final blow. Oh, and Lydia, I said, glancing back over my shoulder, don't bother coming home. The locks are changed, your things are in storage, and I've already contacted a lawyer. Good luck explaining this to your parents. Her sobs followed me out the door, but I